Hi, let's talk about the book. How did I not see this coming? A New Manager's Guide to Avoiding Total Disaster by Katy Tynan. Katy Tynan, she is a IT consultant and has been practicing for I think around 20 years, giving consultation to companies which are in the IT and operations sector. Now, I think this is her second book, and this was published somewhere in 2018. It's a really tiny book, some 100 pages. Like I say, I can categorize this as an airport read, but this book is basically dedicated to first time managers. um, a first time manager needs to be given a proper training before he can onboard into a role of being a manager and looking after a team or a product, mostly a team, if he or she is into people management. Now, all the lessons that possibly a first time manager would need before starting the role are kind of explained in this book in form of a story, where the character has just been given the role of a manager and has a team of 2 3 members under her, and how she's overwhelmed, how she's facing all the typical problems that a first time manager kind of faces, and how does she go about kind of fixing them. And she kind of the story's character kind of goes and meets people from different domains of life and gathers advice from them and kind of comes back to implement them at her workplace. Now, um, throughout the book, one important point that's being highlighted is that a lot of time the first time managers kind of end up mimicking the practices or policies of the manager that they were trained under, uh, and assuming that it will work because it worked for their manager. However, a lot of times it does not work, because although even if the team is the same, the circumstances are different. So every manager for themselves has to come up with their own plan and strategy of running a team, and also needs their own training to be able to do justice to the role that they have been assigned. So the book talks about good 10 to 15 lessons. It Katie Tynan tries to talk about how managers kind of assume that the problems will kind of sort by themselves, and they do not act upon it on time, and then there is delay, and how the cost associated with it. Then how managers try to avoid hard conversations, and again the cost that is associated to that. How expectations are not set properly, and how to kind of deal with them. I think somewhere around, I've bookmarked, this is page 53, that she's suggested doing a very small tiny exercise. Like, you make 2 columns: what motivates you and what frustrates you, and you can assign this to your team members and ask them, what motivates you and what frustrates you. And once you have a list of such once you have this list with you, you know exactly what kind of role or task to assign to your team members. So it's a good point to start with if you have just begun in your role of a manager. So this is the first exercise that she suggests. And then she also talks about performance issues, how to address performance issues. And I think also then there is something on page 48 wherein you the manager could make something like this, a nice matrix of will and can. So she basically says that there are 4 kinds of people. The first kind is the I can and I will. They're the go-getters. They say that I can and I'll get this done. Then there is a second kind of set of folks that say I can't but I will. They are the people who can be nicely trained onto a task and they can quickly onboard from there. Then there is third set of people who says I can but I won't. These are the tough ones to crack, because um, you have to give them a different kind of motivation to get them to do what they're supposed to do. And then there is a fourth category of people who are like I can't and I won't. So she has also brought up a very interesting point wherein she says that maybe there could be a set of people, these could be the same people who at one point in time could have been the I can and I will kind of people, but repeatedly doing the same kind of task, uh, not getting enough recognition, all of these could demotivate them to then land up in the phase wherein they are like, I can't and I won't. So you kind of have to reassign them with a new task, or reanalyze what now they would like to do, to get them to then become the I can and I will of the team. So that's a wonderful way of, and addressing any performance issues. So she's spoken about that. Then one very important uh, thing that all the managers suffer with is time management and feeling overwhelmed. And for that, she has kind of suggested the Eisenhower grid. I think this goes back somewhere page 39, and she says that you should make a small grid like this, the urgent and important grid, wherein you kind of organize the tasks such that it, into four quadrants. Something which is urgent and important, which has to be done. These are mostly tasks which are like the everyday tasks. Then there are tasks which are not important, not urgent, they can go on the back burner. The toughest are the two, wherein which are not urgent but important, and not important but urgent. And how do you assign time to it and get them done. So you can use the Eisenhower grid to do it, if you're a first time manager, is what she has suggested in this book. Now, the book also then goes ahead to talk about points like stress management, communication. Often a manager says something and the team does not understand what is being told. So something is said and something else is understood. So how do you fix that? Then team dynamics, looking at your own management style before you blame your team, fixing your own management style uh, before you are expecting results from your team. It talks about I think spotting patterns is also one of the important themes that she's tried to talk about it. The team kind of repeatedly behaves in a certain way. If you can spot that pattern and kind of address that in time, a lot of other problems also kind of get fixed. So this is what the book talks about. And towards the end, I think just before the epilogue, she has just quickly summarized everything over here. And she says the truth about management: vision, define the values of your or your team shares, and measure everything you do against those values. uh, that is how your vision should be. About team, know your team's strength and focus on clearing the obstacles to their success. How should your goal be? Focus on the outputs and recognize each successful achievement. Learn and adapt, develop the habit of learning from each day's work and focus on growth, not perfection. And trust, without trust there is no team. So that's what that's the truth about management. She's This kind of summarizes the entire book. She's also at the end kind of listed her favorite books that she thinks are a must read. So that's towards the end. I think this book can be then followed up by reading something like 1 Minute Manager, uh, how a manager is made. And I think there is also one book called Leaders Eat Last by, I think, Simon Sinek, which is also a fantastic read. uh, if you end up reading these four, I think you're good to go and take on the new role of being a first time manager. What this some books like these do is kind of sets um, gives your mind a perspective. What should you look for before you make your own strategy or your own plan in developing, building and looking after a team. So this is definitely a decent beginner's book if you are a first time manager. Thank you.